welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to be ranking the Marillion albums all the way from the 17th album to the top album of first place. Now, we did a ranking recently in Iron Maiden, a little bit controversial. This could be a little bit more controversial. Marillion are one of my favourite bands. There may be a lot of people out there that don't really know them, or they think of Marillion as that band that had that song called Kaylee back in the 80s, and the lead singer was Fish. Well, actually, Steve Hogarth has been the singer since sort of 1989, so over 30 years he's been their singer, and actually produced a lot more albums with him than the albums before with Fish. So I'm going to go through those albums. These are just the studio albums, so I'm not reviewing any of the live albums, and not including any of their sort of albums. They did a sort of acoustic album, and they also did an album with the orchestra. I'm not including those because they almost are like best of type of albums. So, without further ado, Marillion. Okay, so Marillion are a British band formed in Aylesbury back in 1979, I think it was. Their first album, though, didn't come out until 1983. So they've been going a long time, and they keep producing superb albums. There's a lot of really great albums out there. So, let's start. 17th place, this album. This is Somewhere Else. Now, this album, to me, it feels like an album full of outtakes and B-sides. To me, it's the lowest point in their career. I mean, they've produced some really great albums, but this album, to me, there's nothing really on it that jumps out, and it's a little bit sort of throwaway for me. So, 17th position is Somewhere Else. In 16th place, Happiness is the Road. Now, this was sort of released as a sort of double album. The first album, the first disc of this double album, is a little bit slow and bland, really. There's nothing that really jumps out. The title track, Happiness is the Road, is quite good, though. And then the second disc, is a lot more rockier. There's a little bit more to it. But again, there's too much on it, and I think if they had concentrated those two discs and made one album, it would have been better. But there's still not really any sort of standout tracks. If I see Marillion live, which I've done many times, I wouldn't be disappointed if I didn't see any tracks from this album played. In 15th place is Arachnophobia. Now, this was another album that was crowdfunded by them. Marillion have been quite famous in terms of being one of the first bands to bring in crowdfunding, where 18,000 fans actually bought the album before it came out. Or no, maybe 12,000 actually. But this album, again, it's a good album, and if most bands would be absolutely proud of an album like this, there's some good tracks on it. Quartz is probably my favourite, but again, compare with a lot of their other releases, it doesn't really stack up. So that's Arachnophobia in 15th place. Now, in 14th place is an album which, again, I know some people like it, but some people don't like it, and that is Radiation. The main problem with this album when it first came out, it has since been remixed, is that the production of it is not great. The mix is all a bit muddled. There is a couple of really great songs on it. Under the Sun is probably one of their best rocking sort of songs. And also 3 Minute Boy is just a really great classic track. But apart from that, to do with the production, the other songs are a little bit not as good. I mean, we're talking about Marillion, a band that I love, so even though this comes in 14th place, it's still a great album. In 13th place is their debut, Script for a Jester's Tear. This obviously had Fish singing on it. This is going way back to 1983. You can see they're very much in a sort of, they sound very much like Genesis to me. There's some good songs, but, again, it's their debut. They were just getting started. And it has the original drummer, Mick Pointer, opposed to Mosley on drums. Now, 12th position. Now we're getting into some really good albums there. This is Marillion.com. There's something bad about this album. It's got some fast songs on it, some slow songs on it, some mid-tempo boring songs on it. But, I think when you look at a band like Marillion that have been so prolific, it's still quite average in terms of Marillion and what they're like. I do like Interior Lulu is a great epic on this album. And also, listen to the song Go. It's got the most melodic and laid back, but just absolutely superb solo by Steve Hogarth. It's one of my favourite solos of his. 11th place. This Strange Engine. The title track is absolutely superb. I remember seeing them at Marillion quite a few years ago, probably 15 years ago. Played this, opened up their set with This Strange Engine, which is about a 12-13 minute song. Really great track. The whole album though is a little bit more sort of acoustic, a little bit more almost folky in terms of it. There was a definite step change that they made from their previous albums before that, but it's still a good album. Some great songs in it. Estonia, another really great track. Now we're in the top 10. So number 10, Holidays in Eden. Now this is an album that has been is regarded by their fans and critics alike as being their sort of the most commercial and pop type of music album. I think this is where the record company were really pushing them in a direction where they would be a chart sort of band, along the lines of, I think I've seen the words Mike and the Mechanics, because I think it had used their producer on it. They wanted to be a chart sort of band. Now, again, very commercial. There's some singles on it that are very poppy. But if you take, let's say, the first song, Splintering Heart, again, it's a superb song. And even the last song there, the closer, 100 Nights, is quite epic. They bookend the album really great. And I also like The Party. It's another good song. Now we're going into the ninth position. This is Sounds That Can't Be Made. The last song of this album, again, it's another epic type of song, which is called The Sky Above the Rain. Again, is a brilliant song, and again, if I was putting together a best of Marillion, it would be on that track. Would be on there. Gaza's a great song as well, another quite epic. The title track's quite good and a bit different, some interesting instrumentation there. And the song Power, which I think they released as their sort of first sort of single, is a really good song as well. But there's some sickly ballads in there, and the rest of it doesn't, and some of the lyrics on the song Montreal don't really sort of work for me. But that's ninth. In 8th place, Gazi. Now this is their second album. Came out just 84, I think it would have been, and it's a harder hitting than the debut. And they sort of really started getting into their stride again. Fish on vocals, but the first side, if we're talking about sides, is really, really great. I love the songs. Assassins, Punch and Judy, Jigsaw. They're really, really great songs. Emerald Lies, another really great song. In 7th place, and it's the album that probably everyone's heard of, is Misplaced Childhood. Now, obviously, this is famous for the singles Kaylee and Lavender, and most people that are into rock music, or even if you're not into rock music, have probably heard of these two tracks. But there's a few epics on it, and its whole album's a concept. It's a really great album. I reckon there'll be some people out there who would put this album, Misplaced Childhood, as their top album. But for me, this is a great album with Fish, but it doesn't really handle. It's not as good as quite a lot of the other Hogarth era albums. Now in 6th place, Fear, which is their latest album. Again, this sort of almost came out of nowhere. It's got 6 tracks on it. There's a lot of tracks with multi-parts on it. I really think it's a superb album, and it makes me want to know what's going to come next, because certainly the title track is absolutely superb. If you like epic type of music, then this is a really great album, and I think it's up there with Marillion's best, even though we're at 6. So we're now heading to the top 5. In 5th position, Season's End. Now this is the first album with Steve Hogarth singing. It's got some superb songs on it, some classic Marillion tracks, songs like Easter. Wow, what a solo is on that song. Berlin is another favourite. The Space is another really, really great song. I really think this was obviously Hogarth joined the band. They did this album, and they were still sort of doing well commercially, and people were a bit unsure how he would replace Fish. He's quite different, but I think the songs really stand up, and it's a really great album. So I'm putting that in 5th place. In 4th place, Marbles. Now this was another sort of double album that was crowdfunded, and this was the one I'm sure that they got 18,000 people buying it, but it's really, really great album. The problem is, being a sort of extra tracks and it being a double as such. I think whether it was a double or more deluxe version, I'm not sure, but it did have quite a lot of tracks on it. Is that there's a few tracks on there that aren't so great, but the tracks that are good on there: Neverland, Ocean Cloud, Invisible Man, Fantastic Place. These are fabulous songs, but there's some fillers. Drilling Holes I don't like that much, and there's a few sort of really sort of quite commercial songs like You're Gone and Don't Hurt Yourself, which again don't really fit in the sort of in that sort of album, but it's still great. I mean, we're in fourth position here. It's a brilliant album, and again I think there's a lot of people out there that will put this as their number one Marillion album. Okay, top three. Now we're getting serious. In third place is the epic Brave. Now this was actually the first Marillion album that I bought. This is a concept album. It's a superb album. I mean, I almost feel bad saying it's in third position because it is an absolute stunning album from start to end. Yeah, there's a few fillers in there. With any sort of concept album, you're going to get a few sort of, slight change in moods. It's quite a dark album, but songs like Runaway, The Great Escape, Hard as Love, The Hollow Man, these are superb songs. Marillion at the top of their game. You can tell the amount of love and effort that went into this album. It's their Dark Side of the Moon, really. In second place, Clutching at Straws. Now this is the last album with Fish on vocals, and to me this is a Marillion album which has got no fillers in it at all. The whole album's good. It's difficult to pick out your best track from it, but as a sort of concept, as a whole studio album of songs, I think this is really good. And even though I am more of a Hogarth fan than a Fish fan, this is a superb album by Fish, and it deserves, in my opinion, second place. So that leaves the winner, first place. It's Afraid of Sunlight. This album, the reason why this album is my number one Marillion album is basically because of the last four songs are probably the four greatest songs that Marillion have done. Afraid of Sunlight, Out of This World, Beyond You and King are absolutely superb songs. If you don't know Marillion, just give those four songs a listen, and that will give you an idea of how great a band they are. The only weak song on this album, and it's quite a short album in terms of the track list, there's only 8 songs on it, but apart from the sort of Beach Boy inspired Cannibal Surf Babe, that's the only weakness on this album. But in my opinion, as an album, it's my favourite, and I'm giving it the number one spot. I know there'll be a lot of people out there that would disagree with that, but for me, those last four songs, if the album was just those 4 songs, it'd still be a brilliant, brilliant album. So that's my ranking of the Marillion albums from last to first. Do you agree with them? Let me know in the comments. Do you like Marillion? Have you heard Marillion? Or are you like a lot of people out there that only remember Kayleigh back in the 80s? So there's my ranking of the Marillion albums. Hope you enjoyed it. Just to give you a sneak peek, the next rankings that we're going to be doing is for Rush albums. Now there's a lot of Rush albums out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of Rush fans. So I hope you're looking forward to that. So until the next video, you know what we've got to do. Keep on rocking.